West Ham are far less disadvantaged tactically this season than we were last season. It's something that only really occurred to me when I was doing the Aston Villa preview with Gio, which will be on the main channel later on today. I remember last season, David Moyes was bemoaning the lack of opportunity to get onto the training pitch. And I do think that was tactical. Last season, it was a problem. And the reason it was a problem last season was because David Moyes had changed his tactics. So, just by its very nature, the players weren't well drilled. They knew what they were doing in seasons before because they'd had the best part of 2 years. And if you think, not only 2 years, but a big break during COVID, where they were training and they were really well drilled for these tactics that David Moyes had. So actually, it didn't matter if they missed a training session here or there, because ultimately, their tactics from one game to another would have been exactly the same that they were drilling on the training pitch the last month. I think my point is here, when you get into European competition, you get probably 2 less days of training per week. And that's a problem when you were going to try and change the tactics, because it really leaves you with only pre-season to say, look, this is the new way we're playing. You might not be used to it. We're going to try and drill it. But the moment you get into the nitty-gritty of Thursday football followed by Sunday football, you've got a problem, particularly when you're travelling, because it probably means that if you're travelling, you're not going to be able to train for much on a Wednesday. You're probably not going to train on the Friday because you're playing on the Thursday. You've probably got a very, very light session, possibly on the Saturday, and then you're playing on the Sunday. This is not enough time to start drilling new stuff, to start embedding new ideas into players. And I started to think about this, really, when I was, as I say, when I was doing the preview with Gio. I started to think about these players that have been away on international duty, whatever, be it Alvarez with Mexico or Antonio at Jamaica, whoever it may be. Because I thought, well, you know what? Even if they have got just half a day's training before the game against Aston Villa, so what? It's not ideal. It's far from ideal, but it's not like they're trying to get ingrained in this new stuff. There's something to be said for this repetition of just going into the training ground. What we're doing against Aston Villa, boss? Well, we're doing exactly what we did against Newcastle. And we're doing exactly what we did against Bakatopola. You were doing exactly what we did against Lincoln City. We're doing exactly what we did against Chelsea. You get the idea. And there is a massive difference to whether you think that style of football is aesthetically pleasing and whether you think the sort of monotony of doing the same training every day is going to have its benefits. And I think it does have its benefits. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about Aston Villa. So in the course of doing the preview, I learnt from Gio that Aston Villa are constantly changing their formation. Now, that's up to them. They've got a very innovative manager like that, haven't they? But I'm sort of, when I heard him say that, I thought to myself, I'm really glad West Ham aren't doing that this season, because obviously Aston Villa are in European competition as well. After the game when they play us, I think they go and play AZ Alkmaar, which, as we know, we know this from our recent excursions in Europe, that's not going to be an easy thing for them to do. So for them to go and then, maybe they're going to play 4 at the back against us, 3 at the back against AZ Alkmaar. They've got Luton after that. Maybe they want to try something different. Maybe, maybe it's going to go with 3-5-2 in that one or something else. That's a hard thing to drill. My concern isn't with Aston Villa. Obviously, my concern is with West Ham. And I just think, well, I think this gives us every chance. And that's why I think things are different this season to last season. Because it allows you to rest the players. Because you think, actually, I can allow myself to rest those players because I haven't got to drill a whole lot of new skills, new tactics into them, because ultimately we're going to be playing the same as we've been playing all season, which has proven to be effective. Now, how effective it's going to be against Aston Villa, I don't know, but it is a massive opportunity for us in this game. I mentioned in the preview, Liverpool are playing in the Merseyside derby, anything can happen. If they were to lose that, and stranger things have happened, and West Ham beat Aston Villa, then we can go 4th. I think realistically that's not going to happen, but we still can go 5th. We're really fighting it out with Aston Villa. Brighton, who are up there as well, so above us we've got Brighton and we've got Aston Villa. Well, Brighton are away to Manchester City, which I don't think is a foregone conclusion. Man City don't look to be at their sparkling best. My point is there's opportunity there. And I'm quite happy to go into the game against Aston Villa playing this sort of nasty defensive game that we've been playing. We block an awful lot of shots. We sit back and we're a hard team to break down. But you know what? We're a hard team to break down for a lot of teams, be it, I know Manchester City ultimately beat us. I know Newcastle got something, out of the game as well. But it's not an easy game. Manchester City did not have an easy game during that game. Newcastle, it will be one of Newcastle's more difficult games this season. So if they're going to struggle to break us down, then I'm not saying Aston Villa can't, but they're going to find it a little bit more difficult. So I'm quite buoyant for this one. And then the other thing that makes me really pleased is the whole fact that there might have been players away on international duty who are going to come back and they're going to be comfortable because they're going to know they're going to drop back into a system which they were trained and well drilled. But we've also had an awful lot of players who haven't gone away on international duty who have had even further opportunity to re-drill those skills. Don't get me wrong, I think Jarrod Bowen going away with England is going to be of benefit to him. I think it must, number one, he got to play, so he's going to be pleased about that. I don't think he's going to be too annoyed that he didn't get to play against Italy. But what I do think, training with those players, and I did the video the other day about how good, but that's an understatement, how good Bellingham is, but how good Bellingham was, how good Harry Kane was, and to play amongst these wonderful players, he's going to learn a lot in those training sessions. I think he's going to come back with new skills, new tricks, and new motivation, which I think is really going to help West Ham. But I also think, conversely, someone like James Ward-Prowse, who didn't go away, is still going to have benefited from, number one, having the rest, because, let's be fair, Ward-Prowse is going to play every single game for West Ham this season. He's going to benefit from having the rest. He's going to benefit from having a little bit more time on the training pitch. And he's going to come in to this, I think, with a point to prove. So it's almost different dynamics to him and Bowen. Bowen's going to feel, I don't know, sort of, I guess, exonerated in because he would have felt that there was, I guess he would have felt affronted that he wasn't part of the England squad up to now. So he's going to feel a certain sense of relief. James Ward-Prowse is going to feel like he's got a point to prove. And I think particularly having seen Jordan Henderson being used once again as a substitute. So I think there's a lot to be hopeful for. There's a lot to have gone on. It's easy to look at the international break and think this wouldn't have done West Ham any good whatsoever. I'm not quite so sure. I think it would have been a hindrance before, because I think I would have felt it was an opportunity missed not to be able to drill the players in this new style of football which David Moyes was trying to introduce. He's ditched it. It's gone. He's not bothering with that anymore. He's got some new things going on, like Lucas Paquetá playing on the left-hand side. But you know what? I don't think that overly needs drilling. I think he's that good. And to be fair, he wasn't away on international duty anyway, so he could have drilled that with him. But I think there's enough there. The small things could have been tinkered with, but I think the squad come back. They know exactly what they're doing. And you know what? I think we head to Aston Villa. I would imagine, I'm quite confident of it, I imagine in terms of the morale and in terms of fitness of the squad going into that game, I think we're in pretty good shape.